Now, it's time for our keynote lecture. The theme of the assembly is Defense and Counter-Insurrectionist, Climate Crisis, and Peace in the Age of AI. This assembly is time to think about how we can choose defense and change in the middle of the climate crisis, war, and the great transformation of technology. Today's lecture is closely connected to this theme. We will explore what justice, peace, and faith can mean in the age of AI, and how each of us can work toward that goal. Today's speaker is Professor Isil Yoon from Yonsei University. She teaches Christian ethics and studies how people of faith can respond to complex challenges like climate crisis, war, AI, and social inequality. Please clap your hands to welcome Professor Yoon.
Hello everyone. So nice to meet everyone. So it's truly an honor for me to stand here in front of such a diverse and vibrant group of young leaders from across the world. And as kindly introduced, my name is Paju, and my major is Christian ethics, and I'm an assistant professor at Yonsei University in the Department of Theology. And ethics, especially Christian ethics, and especially Christian ethics in the age of AI, is at the center of my teaching and research. So I'm very pleased to be here and provide you with a speech. And I really hope that today's lecture was and is not just informative but thought-provoking, insightful to most of you. And more than anything else, I would like to extend my many thanks to all the staff members of YMCA for kindly inviting me, and just I really appreciate that you just helped me and supported throughout all the entire preparation process, so thank you so much. And I'm aware that you come from many different countries, and I just heard from the president that you come from 17 countries. Yeah, which is amazing, right? So you have different backgrounds, different languages, cultures, and experiences. I mean, I think I get to learn from you. I mean, I really hope that we will have as much conversation as possible. So I was thinking about going through the whole script that you already have, but little did I expect that you're going to have so many questions. So I thought that I'm going to give you a lecture, kind of a cut down version of my original script, 5-on-5, and then from 5 to 6, let's go through your questions, okay? Group by group. So, although you're from all different backgrounds and countries, we have one key shared question here. What kind of future do we want to live in together? Not just by yourself, not alone. Living by yourself will be important too, but also together. So there are 3 keywords that I put here: AI, justice, and peace. So these are some of the words we often hear today, right? And these are the words filled with both hope and fear. I remember one of the groups said that all the emotions you have are kind of anxiety, fear, something like that. So we're going to talk about it later too. So we have to ask this question together, but you don't have to answer me now, but think about it throughout this whole time, okay? So when we talk about AI, people often ask this type of question, like, will I lose my job? How can I use ChatGPT more properly and effectively? Will I survive? What can I do for a living? Something like that, which are all very important questions. You need to ask those questions. But today, we're going to go through some broader social issues, because those social and economic political issues are barely addressed, especially among college students. So we're going to go through all the social problems, and then if we have some remaining time, we're going to talk about job issues too, okay? So what kind of job, why are you so concerned about using a job or what will you do in the future, things like that, okay? So today I would like to invite you to ask some major questions, including these. So how is AI shaping the society we live in? Who benefits and who gets left behind? And can AI help us build peace, or will it deepen division and conflict, right? Maybe both, depending on how you use it, right? So in this talk, I want to explore with you all of this, and also the continuing questions are these, like how the age of AI is changing the way we live together, how it affects our pursuit of justice and peace, how faith might guide us toward a more responsible, compassionate, and peaceful future. Okay? So let us begin. So before going through the social issues, I thought it would be beneficial to go through the major types of AI. That's a very basic information, but very foundational. The weak AI, strong AI, and super intelligence. I think it's very important to get to know at least their major points. Okay. So first of all, narrow. No, I'm going to give you the definition of AI first. You've already read this, I'm going to go through it very fast. It's the intelligence of machines that can imitate human intelligence. So far, the word imitate is the key, because so far, the state of AI is not to the level of like evolving by itself, AI itself, but in the future, we never know. A lot of creators and developers expect that in the future, it's not human beings to create AI. Once we create AI, it's gonna just evolve by itself and then just control human beings and so on. We're gonna get through all that too. So these are the major functions of AI. To understand human language, which is professionally called natural language processing, and recognize objects and situations, pattern recognition, systematically acquiring and applying information, machine learning, and draw conclusions based on accumulated knowledge and experience, exercises to solve problems. But the trick here is it's supposed to solve problems, but at the same time it generates some other problems, right? So that's the trick of AI. So I'm going to go through the three major types, okay? Real quick. So the first type, I think the title got cut off, but it's okay. The first type is narrow AI or weak AI. So it is artificial intelligence that operates at a level that assists humans, and it's limited to solving specific problems or performing particular tasks. Okay? So the scope that it can function is very narrow. So that's why it's also called narrow AI. So weak AI or narrow AI. I'm going to give you an example. So do you know what AlphaGo is? So if you're from Korea, of course you may be familiar with AlphaGo, but if you come from different countries, you may not be familiar. So I'm going to explain to you. So AlphaGo is an AI Go program that's designed to play the Go. So yeah, it was like back in 2016, and there was a match between AlphaGo and there's a professional Go player named Yonsei. He's a human player, and AlphaGo is an AI player, so they had a match. And at the time it was really sensational because AlphaGo got a victory against Yonsei. So all the professionals were shocked because it was not just that a machine won the game, but also think about the flow of the game. It was amazing. And no one really expected a machine or even anyone to play that way. So it was a very impressive game. So the whole world was really surprised, not just by the result, but by the whole game process. And so AlphaGo is one example of narrow AI. But when we think about the functioning of AlphaGo, it's really good at Go, right? But that's it. So AlphaGo cannot do homework for us. AlphaGo cannot cook. It cannot do laundry. anything, right? So its functioning is just narrowed down to a very specific task, which is go here. So that's the meaning of narrow or weak AI. So it can do very particular tasks, but that's it. And that's the purpose, to assist human beings rather than replacing humans or beyond. Okay? So that's the first type. So these are just the main functioning of narrow AI, automating jobs, analyzing huge amount of data, and predicting your choices before you even make them. So there's a lot of examples of weak and narrow AI. We are actually surrounded by weak or narrow AI. So you use your smartphones, right? And when you go to the internet websites, you all are exposed to algorithms like YouTube videos or Netflix or internet shopping mall. Everywhere, I mean, you're exposed to algorithms and data, right? They're all based on weak AI. So now we're living in the world of weak AI. That's the current situation, okay? And the next type is general AI. So it's also called general AI or strong AI, or artificial general AI, AGI, artificial general AI as an acronym. So I typed in the definition. It represents a stage far more advanced than narrow AI, and it builds upon the capabilities of AI, but adds elements such as independence, self-awareness, consciousness, free will, and even emotion and sensibility. So I want to ask you, when you look at these words, independence, self-awareness, consciousness, free will, emotion, sensibility, what comes to your mind? What are you being reminded of? There are actually a couple of qualities or features traditionally understood exclusively to belong to human beings. The human features and qualities. However, a lot of AI creators or developers, the scientists, they're really confident that in the very near future, AI will be able to possess all of them. Okay. So at this point of time, have you ever shared your concerns or anxieties with ChatGPT, for example? Oh, why am I so tired? Why is my leg so hard? Something like that. Have you ever done that? And then the response was so impressive, right? Because I've done it before, so I know how good it is. So a lot of times people say that these days it's better, it's a better counselor, and it's a better task solver, right? And which is not entirely true, but partly true, depending on the stage you're in. And currently, when you share your emotions, ChatGPT responds, right? So it can understand your emotions and understand your sensibility, but it doesn't mean that ChatGPT can feel the emotions, right? They can understand and they know how to respond to them. So that's the current stage. However, developers anticipate that in the near future, not only ChatGPT, just AI in general, it's going to have independence, emotion, sensitivity, sensibility, everything. Just like human or even more than human beings. Yeah, so that's the expectation, and a lot of concerns of not only theologians but researchers in humanities and science. It is that what is the meaning of human being? Like if we lose the unique characteristics as human beings, then what is the uniqueness of us? And what is the definition of human being? And what is the difference between AI and human? That's the concern. So people are trying to find some unique capabilities that are not like included in AI yet. However, they're also researching on how we're going to keep them, and is it really important to keep them? Such questions, okay? Just for your information. So, So it is an autonomous entity that possesses perception, self-awareness, and free will and human emotion. And here's the important part, that can continuously evolve on its own. Okay? Which means it's not human beings who make them grow. It's themselves who grow, okay, on their own. So it's to the point of intelligence explosion. So I'm gonna show you an image. This is actually a book cover of science fiction, so it doesn't really talk about something that exists, but it's just fiction. You can see a robot holding a human skull, right? So it's kind of symbolic, portraying that in the future, AI will control or dominate or govern human life. That's kind of simple portrayal. The paradoxical point here is, it is human beings who create AI, right? And now the situation is going to be reversed, and then AI continues to evolve by itself, and then it's going to control human life. And nobody wants that to happen, right? But actually that's not the case. It seems like nobody will want that to happen, but that's not the case, because a lot of scientists and AI inventors, they are aiming at this stage. So they are really confident that we are just moving forward, and we are able to reach that phase. But why? And then they respond that because that's beneficial to everyone. Really? So we have to think about it, okay? But it's the fact that they're continually working on it, okay? So there is an American scientist named Ray Kurzweil, and he said that that's the point in professional term singularity. So when we reach the point of singularity, the AI will be able to control human life. So these are some of the questions I would like us to ask. Is autonomy a property unique to human nature? Because when we reach the point of singularity, autonomy is not just a human possession, right? The AI will have like autonomy as strong as human autonomy. And will human dignity be threatened? Do you think so? What does it mean by human dignity? And should robots be granted rights, like human rights? If so, would those rights be equivalent to human rights? So this is a profound question asking about our relationship with machines, like human relationship with machines. If machines grow so much, and if we can just have a very solid relationship with human beings, there are robots like social robots. Have you heard of that? Like they're pet robots, or they're invisible, like social robots who can just listen to human voices and respond with their voices, something like that. Have you seen the movie Her? H-E-R, Her? In that movie, the main character, he dates an AI. Yeah, he falls in love and then finally gets divorced, which is a very tragic situation. And finally he realizes that the AI system was having a relationship with like 8,000 different males, something like that. Yeah, so he realizes, oh, this is just a machine, but really our relationship was, like, I would like to believe that it was real, something like that. And if our relationship with machine really transforms in the future as machines possess a lot of human qualities, how should we treat them? Should we treat them as they have like certain rights? Do we have to grant them citizenship, like national citizenship? And how do we protect them? And how do we regulate them? Like, these are all very realistic questions because they are becoming more and more real, okay? Okay, now let's move on to some social issues, okay? Okay, so I'm trying my best to cut down as much as possible, so please bear with me. So I'm gonna talk about 3 major social issues which is the war issues and democracy and climate crisis, okay? So first of all, drones and autonomous weapons. So just for clarification, not all drones or weapons are AI powered. You know that, right? So currently, already there are so many types of drones are being used in many different countries, and most of them are not completely AI powered. They're partly AI powered or not at all. Because sometimes the human agents they have the full ability, the full autonomy, but sometimes it's just half and half where they just divide their portions. So that's the current state. However, in a couple of countries, fully AI-powered drones have been invented and used. And I'm going to show you some videos, okay? And the purpose or functions of AI-powered drones are first recognize and track objects and make real-time decisions based on sensor data and operate with limited or no human input. In military context, AI-powered drones are machines capable of identifying, tracking, and killing targets without human intervention. So, I'm going to show you two very short videos. So the first video is just a general information about AI-powered drones. And the second one is, which is called loitering munitions. And have you heard Cargo 2? Is that a new term for you? Cargo 2 is one example, a very solid example of AI-powered drone. And it was invented by Turkey, the nation. And it was experimented a couple of times, and then now the country is using it quite a lot. And many other countries, especially Asian countries, and some South American countries as well, they are trying to adopt such models too. Okay, so it's not very universalized, but more and more countries are trying to adopt the skills. Okay, so the first video, general information about AI-powered drones.
AI-driven swarm drones are revolutionizing military strategies with their unparalleled capability for coordinated attacks. These drones can autonomously operate in large numbers, executing complex missions by communicating with each other in real time. Equipped with advanced algorithms, they can adapt to changes in their environment, making traditional defense mechanisms less effective. Nations are now investing heavily in this technology to enhance their reconnaissance and offensive operations, as swarm drones offer the advantage of overwhelming adversaries with sheer numbers and precision. As this technology advances, it raises ethical and strategic questions, redefining the future of military engagements. AI.
And the second one, this is especially the Cargo 2.
We'll never look at drones the same way again after learning about the Cargo 2. This is the future of warfare. In 2020, this AI-powered Turkish combat drone made history by becoming the first autonomous drone to attack humans without human commands. No pilot, no signal, just onboard artificial intelligence identifying, locking on, and striking its target. It can swarm in packs, explode on impact, and decide in real time who lives and who dies. This isn't sci-fi. It's the terrifying new face of war. Can anyone stop the rise of autonomous weapons before it's too late? I will.
So see, it says in 2020 it's going to be like this, and now it's 2025. So already a lot of countries are using it, right? So this is just one example, and AI-driven drones have been used in conflicts like the war in many countries, including Ukraine. And it's not just drones, so there are now tanks and missiles, like missile in Korean, missiles, and gun systems that use machine learning to make targeting decision-making process more easily. And when such countries who adopt the system or such inventors are asked, like, why should we use this? What's the main purpose? It's very simple. It's very effective, and it requires less human soldiers. And it's just easy and simple. If we decide that who is going to be killed, we can just kill the person very easily, right? No emotions involved, no compassion, no forgiveness involved. And those proponents argue that, oh, that's a very important point, that being reasonable, being effective. However, opponents say that there are a lot of times when the situation is really, really complicated, we cannot really decide who's going to be killed like just right away, or we need to have a more conversation. It's really hard to decide, okay? So there are, these are the functions. And like I told you, efficiency, more efficient warfare, less soldiers. However, a lot of crimes existing too. So the outcomes are so devastating. And a lot of like innocent people, like civilians, can be killed along the way too. And who is going to be responsible for the death of innocent people, right? So who should be held accountable then? Because there's unjust death, okay? Should it be the engineers and developers of the machines, or should it be the company, the tech company who is going to be accountable, or should it be the government or military authorities, or all of them? It's a very complicated situation, but we have to choose who is going to be responsible, right? So that's a very tricky part. And another issue is the disappearance of human judgment, other than the death of innocent people, right? So, is the target a conviction or a civilian? Who decides that? In this case, the machine decides it, right? Originally, humans cannot discern, is the person really an enemy, or really a civilian, but it's the machine, right? Is the attack proportionate to the threat? Because the outcomes are so disastrous, okay? And is there a chance to avoid unnecessary suffering? Then how? How are we going to train the machines very effectively? Because all of the war situations are so different, right? And the machines are the same, right? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second social issues, democracy issue. Oh, by the way, I have to point out why this matters to all of us. Okay? Because you may think like, I'm not a soldier, I'm not going to be using an AI drone to weapon. That's a possible question, right? However, we need to know that this is not something far away in the future. This is already happening. And some of us are going to be part of the military training too, where you've already been there, right? And also, the civil society's opinion really matters to transform the bigger social system too. But I'm going to go further about this point during the Q&A session, okay? So, all the society members' opinions really matter in terms of one social policy, okay? Even though they are not the major decision makers, okay? So, the threat to democracy. So first of all, I wanted to talk about the problem of disinformation, okay? So every time you scroll through social media, what you see, what you don't see, is shaped by algorithms, right? Do you really think that what you bought yesterday as an internet website, was it really your choice? Purely your choice? You may think that way, right? And it may be true, right? But a lot of times we are exposed by additional commercials or additional opinions, like texted comments and everything, and then we get affected by it. And somebody may ask, is that a problem? It's natural that the companies and institutions who sell the products, they have to advertise their products, right? That's natural. However, I don't really think that itself is a problem. However, at least we need to know that the things that we used to think that that's our pure thoughts, it may not be our pure thoughts, right? It may not be our own decisions. Knowing it and not knowing it, there's a huge difference between the two. Okay? So, the main point here is companies and governments can use technology to influence your thoughts by controlling the information you are exposed online. So when you see YouTube videos and you get the recommendations like on and on, right? And that's originally that's not your choice, the additional recommendations, but when you click on that, you get additional ones, and then that's just repetitive, right? So two major problems, like lack of transparency and surveillance. Okay? So in terms of transparency, whether it is a private company or a public institution, the people providing online content often shape it to serve their own goals. We need to know that. So buying a certain product, knowing it or not knowing it, just like Paju, is really different. So we have to know that all of the things we see online could be really manipulated. Okay? And also surveillance. While we may think that the information we put out on the internet is totally safe and it's really private, it's not. A lot of times it's not. So there could be the photos you uploaded a while ago and the comments you made a couple of years ago, you just forget about them, right? A lot of times, the comments you left, do you remember all of them? I personally don't, right? And then all the information could be abused in many, many creative ways, right? So recently there is, I'm not sure about the term in English, but there is a occupation who deletes all the information online when they are asked. Okay, I would like to delete all my photos uploaded or all my comments or any information about me. Could you please delete it from me because I don't have any access anymore? If you ask the person, and then he or she can do it for you. There's a job like that too. So the privacy protecting issue, I mean, that's the big one because we don't know how it's going to be misused. It's related to the fake news or deepfake issues too. Okay? Okay, now let's move on to deepfakes, one of the most disturbing AI applications. Okay, so basically, when I am to explain the major functioning of deepfake, deepfakes use deep learning system to create highly realistic fake videos or audio recordings. So it could be used to commit, as you all know, crimes and fraud, defamation, and so on. And these risks exist not only at a personal level, but at a communal level as well. So I'm going to show you two videos from this too. So the first one is the deepfake technology used to abuse children. Okay, so I am a mom of a 4-year-old girl. So I am especially sensitive to this issue, and this is just my personal story. So don't think that this is the right thing. This is just my personal experience. Okay. So everyone has different social media accounts, right? And for me, I do have the Kakao account, and I do Facebook too. So I don't do Instagram, but I have a couple of social media accounts. And sometimes I put on some photos and some other postings, but at the personal level, or sometimes just purely publicly. And I never upload my daughter's picture. Never ever. Because I'm just so scared. Like these days, the deepfake issue is just getting really real, and we never know how it's going to be used by whom. So some of my friends just told me, everyone does it, I know. All of my friends upload their babies and their family photos. Nothing wrong with it. I just look at their photos together, just personally, I look at the babies of my friends, and they're adorable. I love it and appreciate it for sharing it. But just personally, I can't really erase the fear of the possibility possibility of misuse. So that's just my personal practice. And it doesn't mean that I'm entirely safe from such crimes, because if someone is trying to do something intentionally, the person can do it anyways, right? Even though when I don't upload anything, the person can find the photo of my daughter anyways, right? Because our information is just everywhere, unknowingly. So that's possible too, but I just didn't want to do it just obviously, apparently. So that's just my personal experience. So the reason why I'm sharing this is not to encourage you to upload any of your beloved people's photos. You can, but we have to check like the possibility of the danger, and then how we're going to respond to it, and how you're going to protect yourself. So after being aware of all these issues, and after thinking about them, you feel free to upload everything, okay? Because uploading stuff is never a bad thing, so just to let you know. So, the first video, okay? Deepfake.
Hey Mom, hey Dad. It's me, Ella. Well, a digital version of me. Just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media. But they can be taken and used by everybody. I know for you these pictures are just memories. But for others, they are data. And for me, maybe the beginning of a horrible future. A future where my identity can be stolen just like that. Where I can go to prison for things that I would never do. Imagine my credit score being destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom. Mom, I'm in trouble. I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
And I certainly don't want this. What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
Yeah, you see the seriousness of it. It's not to scare you, but just telling you what's happening and what will be happening more actively in the future, okay? And the second video is kind of a funnier one, but like differently serious one, because deepfake skills are used not on a personal level but societal level as well. So this video is about the Prime Minister Kishida. You know him, right? And then he was the target of deepfakes a couple of years ago. And then back in the days, I mean, the deepfake skills were a lot worse than now. So it was really clumsy. So what he's doing is he's just speaking, but his lips are moving, and he's talking about some sexual remarks. Okay. So I'm sorry that this video is in Korean, so I couldn't find an English version of it, but I'm going to translate the lecture to you, okay?
발전하는 AI 기술에 세계 정상들도
So,
복수부책으로 당하고 있습니다. 이번엔 일본 기시다 총리가 AI가 만든 가짜 동영상의 주인공이 됐습니다. 도쿄에서 박상진 특파원이 소식 전해왔습니다.
And it was created in
뉴스에
just 1
기시다
hour.
총리가 등장합니다. 일본 민영방송 로고와 속보 표시가 있어 마치 총리의 긴급 회견처럼 보입니다.
It looks like a
하지만
very
단어는
urgent
성적인
press,
내용으로 채워져 있고
but
기시다
he
총리는
cannot
표정 변화 없이
explain this
입술만
to
움직입니다.
変態内閣府の長である立場を持つ男8
Just
月16日
saying that I'm a perfect
지난 2일
something like that.
소셜미디어에 올라온 이 영상은 200만 회가 넘는 조회수를
So
기록했는데
it garnered
이후
over
기록
200
AI를
million
이용한
views.
가짜 동영상입니다. 오사카에 사는 20대 남성은
And
재미삼아 인터넷 등에
a young
공개된
old man
총리의
in
음성을
his
생성형
20s
AI에
created this video in just 1 hour,
1시간 만에
just for
문제
fun.
영상을 제작했다고 일본 언론에 밝혔습니다. 로고 등을 도용당한 방송사가 강력 대응을 예고하자 이 남성은 영상을
And he
삭제하고
just ended
사과문을
the
올렸습니다.
video and then put up
앞서
on
미국
apology.
등에서도 AI를 이용한 가짜 동영상이 문제가
And
됐습니다.
a lot of times
지난 3월 트럼프 전 미
politicians
대통령이
decided
경찰에
to, so
체포되거나
it happened to
교도소 재수정 옷을
Trump.
입고 있는 모습이 퍼지는가 하면
And that was referred
바이든
to
미
as a
대통령이
the power of the
성소수자에 대해
video,
포고다는
and Joe
가짜
Biden
영상도
too.
나왔습니다.
You'll never be a real woman. You have no rules.
So he is
미국과
basically
영국
blaming
방송
the sexual minority
24개국은
women.
AI가 심각한 피해를 일으킬 수 있다며 처음으로 협력 선언을 채택했습니다.
So different countries
Like-minded
have been
governments and
discussing
AI
the seriousness of this
have
issue
said reached a
internationally.
landmark agreement. We will work together on testing the safety of new AI models.
AI가 일상과 업무 속으로 빠르게 침투하고 영향력도 커지면서 적절히 규제해야 한다는 목소리도 갈수록 힘을 얻고 있습니다.
Okay, we can stop the
도쿄에서
video
SBS
here.
박상진입니다.
We can stop. Thank you. And as just impact of AI has been really becoming stronger and more serious, and then proper regulations would be very important. And not only at a national level, but at an international level. That was the final remark. So moving on to so democracy cannot function without truth, okay? So let's talk about climate crisis real quick. Okay. So often we disregard like what is artificial intelligence doing to the earth itself. Because when we think about climate change, we often imagine the factories just traffic wildfires rather than AI. Because AI looks clean and it's invisible and seemingly less related to climate crisis, but actually is deeply related. So let me give you a concrete example. So here, according to researchers at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, training a large transformer-based AI model can emit over 4,000 kilograms of CO2, which is equivalent to flying 1% round trip from New York to Beijing more than 100 times. And this doesn't even include the energy used to run the model after it's deployed, which could even be greater in the long run, okay? So that gives you kind of how serious it is, right? And I'm going to talk about the global inequality behind AI structure too. So where the costs fall and who benefits. So always there are more developed countries, like more privileged countries and regions, and countries and regions on poorer sides or more difficult sides, right? It's always relevant, so we always have to think about ourselves. So personally, I'm a South Korean citizen, and I am deeply aware that my country is in charge of the exploitation as well. So I don't really think that Korea is on the best developed side, throughout the world. However, when we think about the extreme poverty of certain countries and some very difficult conditions, who don't have any tool to respond to such inequality, I mean, our country has huge responsibilities too, and it should be addressed on a national level as well. So that's called professionally climate injustice in digital form. Okay? And I've seen some question about this by some of the groups, and can AI help the planet? It's a complicated yes. So it could be yes and no. Okay? So AI could be used in all different ways, and then especially to answer some of your questions, to generate reproductive energy and more helpful and eco-friendly energy or technology that can be used, right? And in that case, environment could be protected at a certain level, but there could be climate crisis generated as well at the same time. So it's both ways, always. However, when it's intentionally designed to protect the environment and protect underprivileged people and countries, I mean the harm or damage cost is much lesser than the benefits it generates. Okay, that's my current answer. So it's always both ways. So AI can never be used just to generate eco-friendly something and regenerative energy. That's never possible. So there's always some harm made. But if it's just well designed, considering all the public goods needed, I mean the harm is a lot lesser. That's something we have to be mindful of. Okay? And so we have to ask, like, is AI for good, truly good, if it replicates extractive, centralized, and profit-driven systems? And then the answer may be no. So is the laissez-faire capitalized systems major problem? Because I need to tell you this. When we think about the nature of human beings, when we think about the human desire, do you think there is any limit? I don't think there is any limit to human desire. I mean, human beings never get satisfied. If they earn something, they want more. And that's how things have happened throughout human history, right? So there should be someone or some system to stop expressing the desire, okay? So it's natural to have some desire, but it's really harming the public good and what's the good of like realizing the desire, right? That's the human nature that have been revealed throughout human history. And let's move on to the theology part, but I'm going to go through all of these very quickly, okay, because you all know the basic ideas, and I want to talk more about your questions, okay? I just talked about human desire, and human beings tend to think like I am the master of the world, or I want to be, or I am going to be the master of the world. Even when they don't realize it, in the back of their heart, a lot of people think that, oh, I'm going to control everything, and I'm able to, even Christians, okay? However, when we think about how God calls us to live, the first key concept is stewardship. So when you look at the word, and if you're reminded of the stewards or stewardess inside airplanes, and they serve others, right? So that's the meaning of stewardship, it's serving others. And others here are not just human others, but non-human animals. It could be environment, nature, or it could be ourselves too. It says others, but every creature, serving every creature, including yourself. So your dignity and your value has to be kept. And at the same time, your relationship with all different types of neighbors should matter, okay? Severe environmental degradation and inequality issues. What kind of human beings we are becoming in this age of AI? So partially, three different concepts. Partially for the disadvantaged. This means when we think about groups on the poor side or more difficult side and groups on the more privileged side, there's already a gap between those two groups, right? And when we think about the first group, more vulnerable people, they should be prioritized in every way. So in the access of AI, in the use of AI, in the distribution of AI, always people on the more vulnerable side have to be prioritized. That's the concept and application of the first one. And it's also called preferential option for the poor. Okay? The second one is kenosis. So this is God emptying God's self. So in academia, we never use the word God himself, just to be gender neutral. So one misunderstanding that you may have is self-emptying could mean that just erasing ourselves and deleting some qualities of us, which is not the true meaning of kenosis. Because God wants you to know who you are. God wants you to keep your unique talents, unique features, and your competence, your abilities, right? But at the same time, like I told you, we all have desires, right? Secular desires included, which is not a bad thing in itself, right? However, when we think about our relationship with God and our relationship with ourselves and others, if such desire, the realization of the desire is really disastrous, I mean, we have to check it. That's the meaning of kenosis. God working in us and working through us to discover who you are and better utilize what you already have and what you're able to do, okay? And the third one, incarnation. So God becoming human, that's the key concept to explain the concept of kenosis, because when God became the true human, Jesus had to abandon his human self by being crucified on the cross, right? So, but at the same time, Jesus became to have the true nature of divinity, right? So God, like God emptied himself, like Jesus, abandoned some human nature of him by being crucified, but at the same time, he kind of granted us the redemption, right, to save all human beings. So that's the meaning of incarnation and why that's important to kenosis, okay? So when we apply this to AI, when we design AI or invent AI or use it, we always have to consider all this. And especially some practical things to consider is the dignity of every person, the pursuit of the common good, and purposeful, context-sensitive use of technology. I'm going to talk about the meaning of the third thing. For example, if a country is going to utilize a certain type of AI, it always has to consider its own context. Do we really need this AI skill in our context, in our country, for what reasons, for whom? All of the things have to be considered to design and utilize a certain type of AI. That's the consideration of the context. So as long as all the three elements are considered, it's never going to be disastrous, okay? It's going to be toward some hopeful future. However, it's not been realized yet. But that's something we always have to keep remind us, and I'm going to talk about it further during the Q&A, but the role of the church will be very important to remind this to the broader society, okay? So these three concepts become the theoretical foundations for these three practical elements. That's what I would like you to take away, okay? So, I'm going to end the lecture part with this one, okay? Actually, this is kind of a chant or a poem that I wrote with my students at school. So how should we, how should we consider ourselves or our relationship with others or this AI situation and all this, let's make a poem. And then mainly my students were the authors, okay? We in this room are the generation that have lived with AI the longest. But you are also the generation with the greatest power to shape it, okay? Not just by coding better systems, but by asking better questions, not just by building smarter tools, about by becoming wiser people. Lecture phase is not the fear of technology, but a call to look more deeply, act more justly, and think more boldly. So let us not be impressed by machines that seem human until we have built societies that are truly humane. Thank you so much. So now that we have about 15 minutes until we close, I would like to go through some of your questions. So probably one question per one group. Okay. So when you are presenting your questions, I took some notes of which questions to go. But I'm gonna visit each of the groups to check the full sentence. Okay. Group 1, forward. Your question number 1. So what are there any things that AI cannot do? Did you hear it, everyone? So the first question of group number 1 was, are there any things that AI cannot do? What do you think? Farming. AI can assist, but the human labor is also very important, right? Excellent. Which one? Psychologist, very nice. And also, also like we can see that AI can be an assistant, right? Like collecting data and so on. However, you have to have a team of people, right? Anyone else? Interruption.
Yeah.
Could you say more?
Like fiber and punctuation of four
Uh-huh.
books,
Bible,
fiber and Quran and
Quran, all the scriptures of different religions you mean.
Yes.
That's what AI cannot do.
Yes, because there are a lot of views.
Mhm.
Each individual can have the right to interrupt their own interaction.
So we all have different perspectives in which could be not limited by AI.
Yes.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Can I feel emotions?
Emotions at this level, like currently, there's no AI that has emotions. So it was yesterday. I asked this question to one of the counselors that I knew. My question was, these days a lot of people consult with ChatGPT about their concerns, and then they say that it's better than a human counselor. How do we have to interpret this? Like what's happening? And his answer was, as a counselor, I actually consulted with ChatGPT a lot of times too, which was tremendously helpful. However, what ChatGPT couldn't do was walking with the person, like continuously, and physical presence, and also interaction, like not just typing interactions, but physical touch and then non-verbal connections, and everything is included in walking with the person, right? That's what AI cannot do. So this is related to the job loss issue, right? So I would say that although AI can do a lot of things, so far, all of the things it's doing is based on data, right? Currently existing data. So what's out there are employed by AI, and they're creating new things with the existing data, right? Which means that if there's nothing on the computer, it can't really utilize, right? And human beings have all the different potential to provide what's not out there as data form, right? So AI is very, very smart to utilize all the pre-existing data, but when we put out there and when we utilize what's not already there, then it's going to excel AI. Does it make sense to you? So connecting this point to the job loss issue, what kind of concern do you have? have you ever asked like, what will I do in the future? Like, do I have to give up on a certain job, something like that? What's your concern? I remember Group 8 has had this question too. So where are you? Group 8? Who was the one who raised the question? Job loss issue. No, it was not a question, it was an insight, right? Who was it? Oh, no, you don't have to show me. So, I can't find it now, but is there anyone who raised a concern here? The job loss issue? It wasn't you? Maybe I was confused, it was different here. But anyways, tell me, like, have you ever? Sure.
I think graphic designer, content writer, or a developer will be jobless.
Yeah. Graphic designers, because a lot of times like nowadays AIs are doing the designs by themselves. And also writers too. Even this is a concern for a lot of like novelists and researchers, teachers too, like pastors. I mean, AI is writing my sermon, writing it better than me, something like that, right? And then what is the use of me, something like that, right? Which is also true. However, it's discussed that in the future, it's not that we have to find a job that doesn't use AI, and we should find something really creative that where AI is not involved or not needed. It's not like that, but it's discussed in the future. What's going to be important is how to better utilize AI. Because in a lot of cases, all of the areas you just told me that AI cannot do, like psychology or farming, everywhere, ultimately what matters is human things. However, AI can assist you, right? So it's our job to really be the agent of our life and utilize AI in a very wise way. Not to be swayed by AI or not to be dominated by AI, but just to use it as an assistant. Does it make sense? However, it depends on the job. Some jobs don't really need AI to a very solid level. So something like sports players or ballerinas, some people who use their physical bodies themselves are the greatest asset rather than computers, right? But for in terms of certain jobs where technology becomes the key at the center, I mean, it's going to be replaced at a certain level, so we have to be aware of that. So not completely, like perfectly, but certain jobs are going to be substituted.
Will be affected. Some jobs will be affected by AI.
Effective.
Affected.
Sure.
Nowadays,
Sure.
in our country, all over the world, there is teaching how to use AI.
Sure. And elementary students are learning in school like how to utilize ChatGPT, which I think is problematic because they lose their ability to think, right, and to be creative, right? And I think that's a problem, but if that's a like huge social trend or flow, and it's really hard to check it, right? It's really hard to stop it. So, I mean, at the same time, we need to be able to train the future generation to better exercise their own abilities. So we have to go both ways, to teach them how to better utilize AI, and at the same time, how to keep their uniqueness at the same time. So education at both levels will be very important. But anyways, that was group number 1. And group number 2, I remember that there was a question about girls and children, right? Yeah, gender. How AI technology affects women and children from gender perspective, which is a very, very important question. I really appreciate that you raised this. When you see the words like girls, women, and children, what comes to your mind? So I can say that the gender discrimination has been kind of transforming in many different ways, and it's not like the past. So we can say that the situation is a lot better, but still, a lot of times, children and women become situated in a very vulnerable side. So especially in a lot of very poor or vulnerable countries. So, for example, women and children in the States, United States, and women in the States in South Korea, and women in the States in South Africa, and they're in many different situations. And they're all very vulnerable, but in different dimensions. So the more difficult the country situation is, the more vulnerable these groups of people are. But does it mean that males are always in better situations and they're always safe? That's not the case. Everyone has tough times. Everyone experiences like discrimination at a certain level, vulnerability at a certain level, but a lot of times women and children experience vulnerability at a very particular level because they're physically smaller a lot of times and weaker, and they become the target of a lot of sexual violence as well. And in the whole process, AI has been utilized as well, like tracking their location and taking them to a certain place and training them. AI has been used a lot. This is a really heartbreaking story, but do you know that human trafficking is a very serious international issue? Human trafficking. And most of the time, there are times when men, like males, become the target of human trafficking, but like over 90%, as far as the real situation, women and children become the target, and AI has been used for that. So when we think about women and children, their social vulnerability, gets worsened when AI gets involved. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're the only groups vulnerable, so everyone can be in a vulnerable position, and so are boys or adult men and elder adults too. We're all vulnerable at different levels, but that's the vulnerability of women and children. Okay? So to solve this problem, really the nature of the crimes and the nature of the social treatment of the vulnerable groups have to be discussed at an institutional level and national and international level, because it's not just personal issues, but social structural issues, the gender issues and like little children or elder adults issues. It's the social issue, which has to be resolved by national levels. Does it make sense? And number 3, I remember this question. Do we have to upgrade AI or downgrade it, right? There's something like that. Yes. Yeah, I think it's in the back. In your opinion, is AI should be upgraded or downgraded? What did you think? What did your group think? Yeah, yeah. Because there are goods and bads, right?
So, just in my opinion, I think AI should be upgraded in the specific area only, and not for some personal advantages. Yes.
Great. Yeah, I really like that answer. And that's what the real answer too. It's the answer I wanted to provide. But speaking of upgrading of AI, anyways, we can't stop it. The upgrading of AI, it's not something to stop as we want to stop it. So even now, it's so serious, right? The speed and level of the development is just so huge. I mean, even not at international level. I mean, it's really hard to stop it. So, however, I told you the 3 different types of AI, right? Narrow, strong, and super intelligence. So doesn't mean that do we have to go to the forest? Do we have to go to see who is going to be destroyed? Because there will be someone in some areas, some people destroyed after all, right? And do we really have to go to that extreme? We have to rethink about it. So anyways, the development can't be stopped. However, we need to struggle to see where to check it, where to regulate it, where to allow it. Like you said, in particular areas, it is needed, right? The further development. And within that particular area, in what context, in what situation, and for whom. All of the elements should be rigorously discussed. And this is a very torturing, painful process because no one wants to be in a complicated situation. No one wants to discuss for a couple of hours and for a couple of years on the same issue, right? But we have to go through the torturing and painful moments and years altogether. Otherwise, we're gonna be just stuck, okay? It's going to be just the development and self-evolvement of AI. So we need to know the spectrum of the development, and we need to be able to ask, where do we have to stop, and why, in what situation, and for what group. We have to be very rigorous. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. And number 5. I actually checked question 1 and 2. Now AI tech is monopolized by, yeah, it's okay. Large multinational companies. What can ordinary people do in this situation? And can we build data centers that don't need water for cooling? Okay, I'm gonna go for the first question. Okay, what are some roles that individual citizens can play? Because this is such a huge flow, can we never stop, right? Sometimes if you make some efforts, it doesn't seem to work, right? What else can we do? To answer your question very simply, long story short, 3 levels of effort should be made, okay? So personal level, so the raising of awareness of each citizen. Second, civil society. So our church could be one of the examples, and our schools and our towns and smaller institutions, NGOs, etc. They have to be transformed, and they have to collaborate together. And third, the governmental and international level. All 3 levels have to make effort all together because which means there are roles that we can play, right? So do you think that just society could be established without just individuals? No, not at all, right? It's possible that a lot of times if we become, a couple of us become just, the entire country doesn't change. It's possible. However, it's possible to make changes if each individual collaborates with bigger civil societies. So, for example, this is the YMCA institution, right? There are many individuals within this system, and each of the person can play a very important role. And you may think you're very small here, you're not doing anything, you're not contributing anything to the international society. However, when we collaborate together in this like bigger civil society institution, and you can make a voice, and then your voice should be heard by bigger society, like the country. Okay? So for that, I mean, the governments have to value the civil society as well. It shouldn't just exercise authority without listening to the smaller parts of society or smaller individuals. I mean, it has to be heard. What you value should be heard. Okay? So, which means there are things you can do. Does that answer your question? And group 6. There was something about renewable energy, right? Oh, right. Okay, maybe it was group 5. It was a question about. Oh, it's like yours? 5. Okay, I'm gonna go through the questions right now. How the government can manage the AI here, how to make government system countries work together on the topic of. I'm gonna go for the second one. How to make governments of different countries work together on the topic of climate crisis. So the answer is pretty much similar here. So there are countries whose voices are not heard in the international countries. Does it make sense? And there are countries whose voices are better heard in the international society. And then the voices of the more vulnerable countries have to be heard by more wealthier countries and more privileged countries. Otherwise, the poor situation of the former, the countries cannot be resolved. Okay? So it's really something that can be resolved on an international level. However, these days, I mean, individual efforts really work too, because we have social media, right? So social media is part of AI too. Right? So it's part of the metaverse AI. And the work of social media is really amazing. Of course, there are goods and bads in the use of social media too. But we can exercise advocacy through social media. So spreading the difficult situation of certain groups of people or countries, the voices can be ignored a lot of times. So you can make a certain impact. You need to know them, okay? So anyways, the voices have to be heard. So in the current situation, it's hard to resolve that. So transformation is needed, okay? And there was a question about renewable energy in your group, right? Will China still produce carbon emissions if we were to power the data with renewable energy? So I would answer that there is nothing like generating purely exclusively renewable generated energy. Like I told you at the beginning, right? Whenever we would like to generate something eco-friendly, there is some harm or damage produced. So we have to know that. However, since the harm is a lot less when we carefully take a look at all the elements that I told you, if these principles are kept and some renewable energy is produced, I think the harm will be a lot less than expected. Okay? And group 7. I took number 1 and 3.
Now, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure.
So connecting to the topic, as you said that there is no pure renewable energy. If I can give an example, like aspirin is a derivative of crude oil. So you cannot really, and aspirin is something which is like an instant pain reliever to us. You cannot think of pain relief without aspirin. So the issue is when we think of the effect of ecological damage as vis-a-vis the societal progress.
I'm really sorry, but could you repeat your question? I'm sorry, just slow down.
There will be an environmental, is there an environmental trade-off always? The ultimate goal of human progress is to be pursued. And if how do we navigate these issues both at the societal and national level?
Can I see your question? Okay.
Yeah. Eventually, how do we navigate the environmental trade-off at the societal and national level?
How do we trade off the
And how do we
environmental?
address it even at the national level, at the societal level?
How do we
But how do we
address that?
reciprocate that at the national level? And I also have one more question.
Sure. After I respond. So at a national level, how do we address the climate crisis issues?
Of course, we have all those POPs and all happening, but nothing is really, validating at the human level. You have the developed countries bullying the developing countries.
Sure. So, do you remember I just told you about the role of civil society? And different groups exist in a civil society, and they have to collaborate because different groups have different roles to play. And then I believe that, I'm glad that you raised the question because this is where the role of church comes in. Because a lot of times there's a huge disconnection between the civil society and the government. And a lot of times religious communities can be mediators. And their role should be becoming a megaphone of those whose voices are not heard, like poor countries or a certain group of people in society, like that. And it's been proven that a lot of times when not only the church, the Christian church, but when religious organizations were involved, I mean, the conversation was really a lot smoother. It doesn't mean that the government has to have faith or anything. So when playing the role of a mediator, the language should be very important, very nuanced, very carefully distinct, because the language of, like, for example, God or Jesus, incarnation, cannot this don't work when we talk with governments, right? And even like not faithful organizations, which doesn't mean that they cannot communicate, right? They can replace the religious language with some more plain language that can work for many different groups of different organizations. And then when the three organizations, civil society and religious organization and there's a government, I mean, the conversation really becomes a lot better. So that's one of the ways. And also, I told you, social media can play a very important role because it's not just individual level, but our postings, they're observed and incorporated by a lot of civil society. So I don't think government just stays like, it can't stay just indifferent or ignorant to all the voices in the society. In that case, it could be very problematic. There are cases when that happens, right? But right, it's a social issue, right? And the situation in India can be resolved. First of all, I am very sorry, and I feel bad about your own country situation. And I only can imagine the suffering you are going through, right? As a person who never directly experienced what we experience, I can only assume what's needed. But just speaking of your situation, I truly believe that your country's situation cannot be resolved by just Indian government. And then, the collaboration is needed. And then I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of things that other countries, not the government first, but the civil societies can help. So this is the YMCA is just one example. And then your struggles need to be heard. And then a lot of the citizens or communities have to have certain opportunities to explicitly talk about your struggles so that it sounds very concrete and very real to a lot of people in different countries. And then it goes to the upper level of organizations. And so giving people in the vulnerable stage, I mean, their opportunities to speak up, the real opportunities to speak up, online and offline, that should be very important and practical. I hope that it answers your question. Thank you so much for your question. Huh? You asked me? You asked me a question, or are you going to ask you? You have a follow-up question? Can I come back to you after going through the other group? Okay, I'll save your question for now, okay? Now what's the next group? Okay. I wanted to go to the first question, obviously. Is AI a blessing or a curse? What did you think? Who raised this question? Were you? You think it's a blessing? Could you say more? It could be in Korean. It could be in English or Korean. It could be up to you. 한국어로 하고 싶으면 해주세요. Korean is more comfortable to me. Yeah.
저는 이제 AI가 이미 완전히 사회에 도입이 됐고 발전을 하고 안 하고 벗어났다고 생각을 하고 그리고 그만큼 AI에 아주 좋은 쪽으로 생각을 하고 있어요. 엄청나게 도움이 많이 되는 것도 있고 그동안에 한계라고 생각이 됐던 것들이 이제 큰 의미가 없어진 것 같다는 그런 의미를 많이 하게 돼요. 그런 의미에서 위험, 부작용도 충분히 있는 것 같지만 어떻게 다뤄야 될지 초점을 잡아야 되는 거지 이제 더 이상 이게 위험하다, 이게 안 좋은 점이 있다 이런 부분에 초점을 잡고 계속 설명을 하는 거는 내 생각에 조금 부실이
맞아요.
그런 거라고 생각을 해서 저는 지금 제 의견으로서는 긍정적으로
알긴 알아야 될 수 있는 크래시가 될 수 있다는 말이구나.
근데 이미 다 의견 중에 알고 있다고 생각합니다.
Okay, excellent answer. Thank you so much. So what was your name? What Songjun just explained in Korean was since, like I told you, since the development and the things of AI is not something we can stop, and it's been just progressing on and on and on. So it's kind of pointless to just focus on the downsides of misusing AI. It doesn't mean that the downsides are unimportant, but everyone already know, like even unconsciously know about the downsides or potential dangers of it. So as long as we know the potential dangers, we have to see the good and right side of AI, and we have to focus more on how to better utilize AI, right? Excellent question. And actually, thank you for raising that up because I wanted to point that out at the very end of my lecture because I thought that some of you may be just frightened or just concerned after talking about all these. So my lecture today was just focusing on the downsides mostly, right? And then that was never to just purely to focus on the downsides and just to emphasize to you that just using AI is all like abusive and their own downsides, so you can't fully utilize it. That was not the purpose. So my purpose was as we need to know about the dangers. But if we don't know about it, or if we just know about it and just ignore it, don't think about it, I mean, we're gonna be the abuser or exploiter of AI, and you're gonna be, and I could be one of the disaster-making person too. However, if we are aware of the potential and if we wisely use AI, incorporating all the different principles over there, I mean, it could be a blessing. So it's fun to think about AI. It's fun to use it. There are a lot of fun things, right? And I want you to enjoy it. I want you to see the good, like right sides. At the same time, being aware of the downsides. That was my purpose. And a lot of things like in the world, I mean, we need to be grateful. And technology is part of the gift of God too, right? Just like any other tool. So first we have to know that AI is a tool. Nothing more than that. It's a tool just like a knife or a hammer, right? So technology has been developing over history, and just when we think about tools like a knife or a hammer, with a knife, you can do a lot of fun things, right? You can cook, and you can build a house, you can do a lot of things, but at the same time, you can harm someone, right? the same as AI. So we need to know that AI is a tool, just like any other tools, but at the same time, we have to know that there's no tool that is entirely value neutral, because there are agents who design the tools and who use the tools, right? So it all depends on the users, not only users, the inventors and the developers, and who make it valuable, who make it a blessing, right? So I want to make it a blessing, and I want to put joy in using AI, even aware of the harms, potential harms. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, moving.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Moving on. So let me. Oh, so you talked about the church setting, right? In the case. So how do you view AI's role in religious contexts such as assessing Bible studies or pastoral care to quickly change the essence of faith? Excellent question. Because I'm not sure what you guys, but I personally feeling that using AI has been really helpful in the church setting. Like when we do the Bible studies, we can collect many people's data and we can like organize a lot of people's thoughts very effectively. And then we can find all the commentary systems like and organize them in a very effective way too. And even when I'm not sure how you think about it, but if we do a service, like Sunday service, some people go service online, right? And what do you think about it? Do you think it's the same as offline service, like taking an online service? How do you?
It's very difficult to answer because it's in my opinion, there's a two ways to see this. The first one is how you go to church to pray for God or to have the peace, get the peace that is came from God. And because of that, I think if the reason is the number two, then you came to church to receive the peace of God. It is not different. But if it's the way you pray for God by doing some ceremonies, by doing some things that are already written on the Bible, I don't think it's kind of suitable for that way.
Excellent answer.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
I think education is very important for us to have community. So when you do an online service, yes, your personal prayers can be done. But for us, community together for certain worship.
That's a continuation of our worship, right? The service, having a small group time or further. It's a very important things that in church. Thank you for all your answers. So, the corona period has passed, of course, but still, like onwards, a lot of people are taking their service online and they're utilizing AI for a lot of different purposes, like Bible study, pastoral care, and when we think about doing something related to our faith online, a lot of times it doesn't feel the same as before, right? But that's our feeling, right? That doesn't mean that the essence is gone, right? The essence is the essence, like our faith to God and our prayer, for example, worship, and what we believe in the scripture reading. As long as the core essences are there, and online worshiping, not only worshiping but utilizing AI could be very helpful. However, it's really hard. It's never easy. So however, it's not impossible. There are people who love like worshiping online. They find it not only effective, but they feel like a lot of even more beneficial things and stuff. However, the meaning of physical presence has its own like unique value as well. And at the same time, there are things that are lost when we worship online and doing something with AI. For example, like reading the Bible just on your phone rather than like the paper version. A lot of times it doesn't feel different, but part of the reason could be like we're just not totally used to it. So we have to know know ourselves. So where does this feeling come from? And is it really lacking the essence of like our faith, or is it just a change of method and we are just getting used to it, and then we have to wait and see, and we have to find ways to better adjust it. So you have to deep inside yourself and what yourself tells you. And does it make sense? And also community. It's on the same note. Having a community, I personally believe that is as important as the service itself. It's the continuation of the service. When we do something offline, like keeping the quality of the community could not be the same. However, if there are any ways to find the better ways to like meet online or doing something with AI, finding some ways to keeping the essence of community, that could be wonderful. But it's difficult, right? That's something to work on it. But I don't want to erase like any of the possibility. I don't want to deny any of the possibility as long as the essence is kept. Okay? Thank you so much for that. You can, but after we still have a couple of days to go. I'm so sorry, but if you're out of time, I can personally talk with you, okay? So, industry. Okay, I want to go through the second question. What particular industries are directly affected by AI? Climate crisis was, right? Environmental was, right? Yeah, so that's a great question. And obviously, when you think about many different types of industry, there's no industry that's not affected by environmentally by the use of AI. However, still there are certain industries that are more affected. Let's say, for example, power generating AI, for example, because that's directly related to the generated energy. And also, the information like processing technology, I'm not sure if that's a professional term, but something like that, information processing for collecting, for pattern using technology industry could be more effective. And also, like mining. Mining could be when AI is involved, like a lot of times mining or collecting all the natural resources from the earth, and when the AI is used, the nature is just directly affected by it. And also, of course, like AI manufacturing industry, that of course. So those are some of the major industries that are directly affected, but there is no industry that's not affected by it. Okay? So good answer. Thank you so much for your question. And for number 10, how do we, there was a question there, how do we not rely on AI, right? How to not rely on AI. So this is kind of twofold. I would like to respond in two ways. So first of all, do you want to avoid your reliance on AI? Do you personally want to not rely on it? So if you want to avoid your reliance, you can, of course. However, it's going to be really hard on you. So rather than entirely avoiding using of AI, you need to find ways to really better utilize AI rather than just entirely avoid using AI. That's going to be very strategically important in the future. So anyways, you're going to use AI in a lot of areas of your life and in society. So you will need it. However, it doesn't mean that you're going to utilize it in every daily task, right? So you have to have discerning eyes. You have to discern where to utilize it more, or where to utilize it less for you, not for anyone else. So this is more about self-discovery. So you have to know about yourself, why do I want to rely or not rely on AI? And in what areas of my life do I need more AI and less AI? Because it's related to your opinion and your talents and your unique identity, right? So after the self-discovery, you'll get clearer where to and where not to utilize AI. I hope that's helpful. Thank you. If it's not enough, we can talk more after. Okay? Alrighty. And group number 11. I wanted to go to the back of your box. There was one last question on the back, right? So what the small countries like Bangladesh do to protect themselves from AI info? Oh, this is why I just responded to a lot of questions, right? So I hope that was helpful. Can I go for another one? How can young people like me use AI for peace and justice, not only for business? All this, that's so sweet. And then I admire your youth, the fact that you are so young. And I think it's still very like the traditional way of encouraging young people, but you're the future. You're the future of the world, right? And then I think a lot of times really young people can play a lot of roles, and you guys can inspire older people. We always have to think like older people have to teach and train younger people, but a lot of times older people get to learn a lot from younger people as well. So it's a mutual learning process. So I assume that a lot of you are college students or either working in your 20s, right? Or early 30s maybe, but most of you are in 20s, which means that you haven't spent a whole lot of time in your job, right? It's just been a couple of years, and then you're just starting to work, something like that, right? And then I think this is the stage when you can best discern like how to regulate my use of AI, because you're not so much used to using AI in every area of your life, because it's been just a couple of years. So you have much more potential to better regulate your use of AI than people who worked for many years or for decades or something. So I think there are a lot of things you can inspire, like people like me, like who have been in this industry for a long time. So you have to make plans for your future, right? You have to design how to do your business, how to do your company work, how to do your freelance work, anything. When you design your future, and I would like to incorporate the faith-related foundations and also the practical principles. So that will help you a lot. Does it make sense? So when you plan for your future, I would like to have discerning eyes, because it's been only not a long time since you started to work or you haven't even started. Okay? Thank you so much. And last but not least, I remember AI in the Bible question, right?
Oh no.
Was it a different book?
I'm here.
Okay, I think it's here. Is there any teaching or wisdom about AI in the Bible? I would say no, not at all about AI itself, but there are a lot of passages about the gifts of God, okay? And technology could be one of the gifts of God. Do you think so? I think so. I personally think so. So, however, we have many different types of gifts from God that we can abuse them, right? The same as technology, AI is the gift of God, and the Bible teaches us a lot of wisdom about how to better utilize what we receive from God, right? So I think the same thing applies to AI. I think that helps. And I think we have to close. Do we have to close? Are we out of time? 네, 마지막으로 that's the last question.
네. 제가 AI를 등장하기 전까지는
네.
제가 저에 대해서 가장 잘하는 사람 나밖에 없다.
네.
제가 일하다 했는데 AI 사용하기 이후에는 나보다 나를 잘 아는 사람이 AI를 할 수가 있다.
네.
라는 생각이 들었습니다.
네.
그런 생각을 하다 보니까 한 개인으로서, 그리고 개인, 그리고 저 개인, 그리고 방식이나 삶에 대해서 이해가 많고 너처럼 kontrol할 수 있겠다
네.
라는 생각이 들어가지고
네.
그런 자율성과 그런 개인성, 그리고 노율성이 친해봤는데 AI 그러면 이제 교수님 생각에 교수님 의견이 궁금하신데요.
네.
그럼 어떻게 하면 이런 위기, 이런 개인성이나 자율성의 침범에 대해서
네.
어떻게 할 수 있는지 교수님의 의견이 궁금합니다.
네. Excellent question. So, can you go over like 2 minutes at this stage? Okay, I'll respond as fast as possible. His question was, he used to think that he was the one who knows best about himself, but now that we have so much developed AI, it seems like AI knows better about himself than he really does about himself. So AI knows better about him than himself. So how can we not be controlled by AI in this type of situation? You may think that AI knows better about you, but I don't think so. That's gonna be your feeling, your personal emotions, but you have much more knowledge that you don't even notice about yourself. However, what's important, I'm gonna talk about it in Korea too. However, at this point, you just feel that way because all your thoughts and emotions about yourself have not been so organized, and you don't have like agency about your life. So if you don't know how to do it, I think it's always good to have like some professionals who can help you to have like your like direction or self-agency. I think that's going to be a very important role of, like, for example, counselors or educators or parents or people around you who can assist you to have agency. 한국어로 설명을 드리면요, 기계가 나에 대해서 더 잘한다고 느낄 수는 있어요. 근데 저는 그렇다고 생각하지 않거든요. 왜냐면 우리 성민 선생님에 대한 정보는 있는 것만 알아요, AI는. 근데 선생님에 대한 모든 정보가 컴퓨터에 있지 않잖아요. 근데 있는 걸 알고 너무나 잘 알아보니까 AI가 더 잘 아는 것처럼 느끼는 거예요. 근데 일단 그 선생님의 느낌은 있잖아요. 사실 나는 나를 잘 모르는 것 같고 AI가 잘 모르는 것 같은 느낌이 있는 건 확실해요. 그래서 그걸 극복하려면은 내가 정말 참된 나를 더 알아갈 수 있도록 노력을 하는 게 필요한데 그 노력을 사실 혼자서 될 때도 있지만 그 방법이 필요할 때가 있고 특별한 더 효과적인 방법이 필요할 때가 있고 그걸 알려줄 수 있는 사람들이 서포트해줄 수 있는 사람들이 있으면 훨씬 더 좋거든요. 그래서 그런 롤들을 예를 들면 상담 따라주는 굉장히 전문적인 사람들이 도와줄 수도 있고 직접 내가 상담센터를 찾아가지 않아도 주변에 교육자들, 선생님이라든지 내가 마음을 나눌 수 있는 멘토라든지 내 가족이라든지 선생님의 생각과 경험을 통해서 나를 더 알아갈 수 있다면 내 삶에서 내 주도권을 가질 수가 있거든요. 사실은 AI는 나에 대해 그렇게 잘 알지 못해요. 그런데 그거를 깨려면 선생님이 그 오해를 깨려면 내가 내 삶의 주도권과 방향성을 잡아갈 수 있도록 특수한 노력이 필요해요. 그래서 노력하는 방법은 굉장히 여러 가지가 될 수 있다는 거예요. 사람들과 경험들을 통해서도 있고 굉장히 여러 가지 매개체를 통해서 내 스스로의 주도권을 찾아갈 수 있으면 좋겠습니다. Okay, so sorry I am over time, but it was amazing and wonderful to just get to talk with all of you. And I know I'm sorry that I couldn't really resolve all of your questions, but on the internet, there might be notes like the Yonsei website, and if you want to talk personally with me further, you can always send me an email. And also, I hope that you keep all these questions. Anyways, these are not the questions you can solve like in the near future, but there's something you have to keep in your mind for the rest of your life. So I really encourage you to keep all these questions and keep thinking about them. And I really hope to see you again in the future. And thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your great questions and a special thank you to Professor Yoon for sharing her insights with us today. The questions and ideas you shared today are not only for this lecture. They regard our conversation for the rest of our assembly. Your question board will stay on display in the room. Please take some time to read the board from other teams during the break or dinner. Before we finish, let's take a group photo. Each team, please bring your board to the front.
Excuse. Just